To all politicians that are in the riding for Alberta's elections, I would like to bring to your attention that your mandates are shortcoming. You guys have never mentioned within your mandates and or any of your promises or speeches that you put out there that you're willing to support a part of disability that has been ignored for well over 20 years here in Alberta. What part of that disability is invisible disabilities like autism and ADHD or fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. Fact is that what is put out there in mainstream, people believe that what autism is or ADHD is something that should have a look when it doesn't, as I'm living proof. As you can see, I look normal, I talk normal, I sound normal, but there's this underlying factor for which I have diagnosed and puts me at a disadvantage when it comes to trying to find work or socializing or even simple communication skills. And even though that I make this look easy, trust me, every part of me screaming not to do this. And the fact is that I'm one of few that would rather face her demons than to lay in the background hoping for a better day, when we all can work together and make things happen and make this whole disability gambit accessible for everyone and all disabilities, all ages. What I see out there for people like me fall in the ways of severe or more seen issues, or those that use aids in order to say that they have what they have. And for those with invisible disabilities, there's a huge, huge issue because people like me don't use aids in order to facilitate or have people recognize that they have what they have. I'm not about to go around with huge headphones on my ears that are noise canceling or use eyeglasses that block out the UV and make things darker so that certain things don't hurt them. Fact is, I find it very embarrassing to wear things on my head or on my face when I can see just fine and my hearing is just fine. Fact is that I would far sooner look like the rest of you and not have my issues be, well, out in the open for everyone to see. It's bad enough I have to do them by video. I want you guys to understand that someone like me, if they're honest about what they have because they need accommodation in the job in order to help them have a better work life or better experience within the work field. And often what happens is that we are denied accessibility when our accessibility means the ability to function in a normal setting, something that most of us take for granted, and that is wrong. And that means for some of us, having aids on the job to help us remember certain aspects or certain ways to do things. Other things might mean that a person, if the place is like really noisy and crowded, that they might need to take 5 minutes in a quiet room in order to settle down whatever is causing the issue to become a meltdown or a serious issue for the one that has disabilities like mine. Sometimes all it takes in employers' workforce is to ask the person themselves with issues like mine to how they can help make their lives better or easier to deal with in noisy environments or places that are really busy. Or in my case, I have sensory issues and concerns of audio and visual, which means that if the place is too noisy, too loud, too busy, a lot of shiny objects, I have a meltdown, especially if it's crowded, or it makes things very difficult. And frankly, for mainstream viewers that see this, just because you think I have social anxiety issues does not mean that I am willing to, or does not mean that I have to hide whatever I'm doing Fact is that people need to be educated and understand, or at least try to understand, how to see things differently. Not all of us are going to have the ability to talk to someone when they have a meltdown. Fact is that for me, my only recourse is to disappear from whatever is causing the issue so that I can settle myself down. I'll come back. But the thing is that a lot of people out there think that maybe I should just go and hide anyway and stay at home and not have a life. Fact is that I love having a life. I love living, and I love being outside where there's people, just not a lot of them. As for you politicians, maybe it's time that if you're going to talk or banty inclusion and accessibility and Bill C-81 or Bill whatever the heck it is for Alberta for accessibility, perhaps we should fix that, where accessibility also includes programs and resources that benefit those like me. What those like me need is individualized programs for which deal with one's diagnosis on, and as well as age, ability, health, and interest. What is here in Edmonton is a funnel system, and what I notice is that most issues concerning disability or related programs concerning disability related things do not fit someone like me. They work on a funnel system, which means that you start in a classroom way at the top of the funnel, which with people with disabilities that are, well, let's just say they have abilities of their own, but will never leave home. They will never realize or have the ability to understand what the goings on in the real world, or conceive or understand what their actions may do as a result to the thing that they did. For every action, there's always an equal or negative reaction. And I understand all that. They will never understand the true meaning of relationship. But yet I'm married, I drive, I do things that average normal people do. Unfortunately, I also have issues that require individualized programs and resources. Things that most of Edmonton doesn't understand or want to understand. And you guys need to start talking about this, because accessibility for me is denied daily, as it is for so many with autism or ADHD or other invisible disabilities. There is no program that fits us here in Edmonton. There's several in southern Alberta or in smaller communities, but for some of us, moving is A, too expensive, B, not an option, C, some of us don't like change and have a heck of a time with it. To ask us to get up and move to where there's help is not fair, when you should be looking to other communities to find out their answers to this problem that Edmonton and north of us has in regards to invisible high function needs in adults like me. Disability does not end at 18. It does not suddenly go away or heal itself. Fact is that disability is lifelong. Therefore, programs should also adapt to the changes in one's life, because some issues change with the person concerning health, needs, abilities. I've read in studies that even with average thinking people, that at about between 25 to 35, the mind starts to decrease in neuron production. So therefore, the capability of change and or learning process is slower, even for the average normal person who has no medical diagnosis or disability-related tests saying that they may have what they have. What they have is purely genetic due to age-related factors for which dictate how a person is in later on years. Now imagine that person having a disability like mine, genetics take hold, and next thing you know, they need help because of certain factors for which made their disability the way it is in older years. Many of us are married. Many of us have somewhat normal lives, but some of us are like me where they can't bank. What happens when we come to our senior years? All the supports that we once had because our government took what we had away in the 90s. And those supports fall upon family or husbands. I tell you, at my age, we see more funerals than we see parties at my age. At my age, my friends, my supports are starting to drop like flies. Or end up in nursing homes because most of my friends, well, they have health issues of their own. Imagine being my age and like some of my friends living at home because of a disability, but their supports are old, as in health issues of their own. Parents that are ailing because they're 80 and their health issues are the way they are due to genetic factors. Who's supporting who then? What happens when, say, some of us are married, their husband dies? Getting through funeral costs and the gambit of all that red tape concerning finances and bills and all that. I tell you, if I had to do that, I wouldn't know where to start, and I wouldn't know how to begin it, because I don't understand it. How do you communicate with somebody when you are blind to body language or the quick gestures that people do when they're communicating? Or if you're blind to the invisible rules that society puts out there? To me, it's like playing a game without any written instructions. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to anyone with my issues. I am blind to society norms, quite literally, as much as I can see like the average person. I don't understand it. I don't understand what I'm looking at, but I understand the communication through verbal context. For me, what I require is a disability skills coach or a community service worker that is trained in disability. What I get because I am grandfathered into PDD is HCA, healthcare aides. These people have very minimal training and knowledge on disability. They deal with more of the seniors and or more severe end of disability for which group homes are involved. I do quite well at dressing myself. I do quite well at wiping my own butt. I'm quite capable of walking, but my issues are more of the neurological cognitive delay sense. Neurological and cognitive delay does not mean that all of us need someone like an HCA in our life. What some of us just need a disability skills coach or community aide that is trained in disability cognitive related issues. Someone that may have a background in behavioral issues for which cognitive delays may have, even for the high functioners like me. You want to include or talk about inclusion and accessibility rights. Quit denying mine. Bring in the services that people need in order to live. Can you do that? Can you open up a PDD so that my friends that are above a certain level of acuity don't fall through the cracks because they have a limitation of 70 IQ before they stop services or deny services for those that are just like me? I have friends with 140 IQ. but act like a 16-year-old because they have neurological delays like my own. You may think you're doing us all a favor by throwing money at disability, anything. That's not doing me a favor. That's just throwing money around just to say you did something nice for us. Here's the thing. That don't impress me much. What's going to impress me is if you come into our community, our world, and talk to us as politicians should. You want to make all these little parties and all that stuff? Then let your speeches include us, our needs, because they're not being talked about. Include a community that has been forgotten for well over 30 years since the Klein days. Because even though I'm married and my husband makes money, if he should die tomorrow or get seriously ill, who's going to take care of who? Who will I fall on when I need help too? That's all I got to say. All I want you guys to do is acknowledge our community. Acknowledge our needs. Acknowledge our wish. Because not everything's in a wheelchair and not everything is seen. I'm living proof. Thanks.